And our Jeff Pegues joins us now from Washington. And Jeff, let's begin with that press conference yesterday. Senators Burr and Warner, what was the goal of that side-by-side appearance? Clearly, a lot of people felt that they were the more adult version of what we've been seeing in the House. Do you think they accomplished what they set out to?
Well, I think the goal was to set the tone here, and I think they were effective at doing that. Painting that contrast between the House Intelligence Committee hearing and the perception that is now around that investigation. So I think they were able to paint a vivid contrast there. But clearly these two men get along as they lead this investigation. But their cooperation will be tested as they go through this process. This has the potential to turn into something that is highly partisan, as we've seen, some would say, on the House side. But I think that they were effective in setting the tone yesterday as this process for the Senate begins.
So based on the witness list for today, the hearing today, it's probably not going to have a lot of fireworks, but what are you going to be watching for when the committee convenes later on this morning?
Well, it's not going to have a lot of fireworks in that it doesn't have the big names that are directly connected to the investigation. For example, during the House hearing, you had FBI Director Comey, you had NSA Director Michael Rogers, and those are two men that are directly involved in figuring out what exactly happened here. And so today's hearing, really, if you're looking at this from the view of a prosecutor, it is the beginning of this investigation. It is the opening statement. And so what you will have are these experts in Russian strategy, Russian cyber attacks, really starting from the beginning, which will demonstrate, in their view, I think, what is at the heart of this issue and this Russian effort to interfere in the election process, and they will outline how this is part of the Russian strategy, and not only here in the U.S. to interfere here, but in other parts of the world. They've seen it in Ukraine. They're now seeing it in Europe, according to people that we have consulted, and Senator Burr said that yesterday. And so they will begin to outline this case, because keep in mind, there are a lot of people in this country who are just now tuning in to this story. So this will start from the beginning. And so it will be interesting to see what the public picks up from this hearing as this Senate investigation really begins in a public way.
Jeff, we played Russian President Vladimir Putin's remarks earlier. He was asked directly if Russia sought to interfere in the U.S. election. He said, quote, "Watch my lips, no." He also went on to say that he's ready to sit down with President Trump. So what do you make of the comments from Putin?
Well, I'll tell you what U.S. law enforcement, U.S. intelligence officials will see when they see that soundbite. They won't believe it because there has been a very clear view from U.S. intelligence agencies that the Russian, the Kremlin, Putin himself, was involved in authorizing this wave of cyber attacks that were carried out during the 2016 campaign. That type of cyber activity, in the view of U.S. intelligence and law enforcement, cannot happen in Russia without Putin approving it. And that's what we have heard over and over and over again from U.S. law enforcement and U.S. intelligence. Furthermore, there is a history there. If you look at the history of Vladimir Putin and the things that he has said over the years, for example, there are no troops in Ukraine, you can see why there will be people in Congress, there will be people in the law enforcement community who look at his statement today and look at it with a critical eye, knowing that in the past he has made statements that just aren't true.
Right. So meantime, the House investigation has sort of stalled. It is clouded with controversy. The latest dust-up is over Chairman Nunes canceling the testimony of former acting Attorney General Sally Yates, and the committee's ranking Democrat Adam Schiff took to Twitter yesterday, and this is what he wrote: "Sally Yates is willing to testify. White House says they want her to testify. Public wants to hear from her. Brennan and Clapper, what's the holdup?" So where do you see things going from here, Jeff?
I don't know. It's like a soap opera, isn't it? I mean, there's so much drama involved, and that's what this is sort of devolved into, where there are accusations and finger pointing on both sides. And so this is a process in the House that has really gone off the rails, and there's really no other way of describing what's happening there now. The question is, can they get this process back on track with credibility? And there are some people in Congress on both sides of the aisle who doubt that that can happen at this point. And as you know, Devin Nunes is showing no signs of relinquishing his chairman's seat. He is resisting these calls that he step aside and recuse himself, and he currently has the support of the Speaker, Paul Ryan, and so that is important. But we will see. Adam Schiff, the ranking Democrat on that committee, and Nunes will be meeting today. We'll see if they can come to some sort of agreement to get this process back on track. These hearings are important. Certainly the FBI counterintelligence investigation is the most important aspect of this. But if you look at history in this country, you will see all the footage that we have typically when you have these very important issues come up in this country. All of that footage that we have typically is of these hearings in Congress and someone being questioned under oath and testifying. And so this process is important as investigators try to get to the bottom of what happened during the 2016 election to try to prevent things like that from happening again.
Yeah, Jeff, I think your key words were, can they get it back on track with credibility? Indeed. Our Jeff Pegues in Washington. Thank you so much, Jeff.